Hey everyone, long time no see. We're back for Arifureta 0 with Volume 3. Now this is one that I just got done reading. The first two volumes I talked about, it had been a little bit while, so part of the reason why I wasn't wanting to go in as much depth about critiquing and stuff like that, but I feel like we're going to be able to dive in a little bit more with this. So let's just start right off. So Volume 3, obviously, leaping off of the last volume with the addition of Myru and her pirate group. Well, not so much her pirate group, but more so the people of Andica. Andica, I think is the correct words. I'm recording this very soon, as you can tell, after the other two, so didn't get to read or check any of the pronunciation on that. But needless to say, we get to see them, and there's a little bit more of downtime, and time lapse. So we get to see the Liberators having to adjust with the inflation of new recruits. And so that kind of leads to them going to another camp and having to make preparations or changes to accommodate to these growing forces that they've just had added to the Liberators, as well as seeing more of the organization, which is probably one of the first good points in my book. Seeing more of the organization, seeing how it works, showcasing that there is more of a, I don't want to say a structure of competence to the group, but just seeing that it is more spread throughout the world than maybe initially we thought, and that they are, doing intel retrieval in a lot of areas, and they kind of the feeling of we got spies everywhere. And I really dig that. I really, like seeing, we don't have to have a lot of moments, and maybe even in this volume there is a little, maybe just a tad bit too much showcasing of this, but I do appreciate seeing the downtime that, where we get to see, Mileti and her comrades working at Liberator camps or outposts, benefiting, the organization as a whole, or just, little segments of it, so that, we can get not only a look at, more of the organization and the people in it, but also, just fleshing things out. And I think they do a great job. They introduce a ton of new characters, or at least characters that maybe we've, heard in passing, or, that we gathered along the road, but we had to drop off with the Liberators so we could focus on the task at hand or the action at hand in the other volumes. And so it's kind of touching back with everybody or in some of those other characters. And I like it. Again, like I said, it's kind of one of those things where when we're leading up to a huge battle that's going to, include everyone essentially in the world, I think these moments are really what are going to pay off for that in battle or that in conflict. So seeing them now, spreading on that, and also getting the introduction out of the way so that when we come into the more elaborate pieces, whether it be, more elaborate battles or, bigger scale operations that the Liberators are going to pull off, already having the knowledge of certain characters and what they can do, and, all of that kind of entails that, so that we don't have to focus, so many pages on describing that in the moment. We can just focus on the in the moment, being in the moment, and what's happening. So again, maybe a bit more showcase, or spending on those elements a tad bit more than it needed to. But I think, or maybe not necessarily that they needed to, but maybe just could have shortened that a little bit, but still got the same type of information or effect, possibly. But again, I think it's something that is not only essential for bigger impact later on, but also just nice to see, not only for our main group, whether that be with Oscar interacting with his family, or Nyes with, kind of the girls that obsess about him, or, just people that Mileti is close to that we maybe weren't even introduced to before, or just, lightly mentioned about. Now, the other thing, too, is that we kind of have a change-up in how the story has not to say progressed, but how we get mention of new Liberators or new ancient magic users, with the first two volumes being centered around rumors and Mileti and the team going after said rumors. In this one, it kind of brings that liberator, that ancient magic user, to them. So again, there is something that pops off in the Liberators organization that leads Mileti and her team of ancient magic users to go investigate, and that essentially jumps off a journey into the demon territory, or the demon country of Igdal, and we get to see not only our new ancient magic user, but also the demon kingdom and what's going on over there and how that's relating to the rest of the world. Again, very compact, very layered. I like how it's connecting to a lot of different threads, and maybe seeing instances of those threads, but primarily focusing the backstory of characters associated in that region. So like I mentioned, we do get the new ancient magic user. This is going to be not going to say it right, I bet you, Vandre Schnee? Don't know, guys. I'm sorry, but he is a half demon, half dragon man. So that's pretty cool. Also, I'm sure already there's gonna be like, what? They ripped off Tio? I'm like, hey, Tio's. Let's not be hasty. She's a pure dragon woman. This one is a halfling. So, and not only that, but we've never really got a character that was a demon in the main series. At least that was good, right? So, that's also a neat one there. And I think because we've had the demons as an antagonist, and we have the prior knowledge from the main series that the demons lost, or well, I shouldn't say that, that the demons were kind of, they were not favored, right, in previous history, but then seeing the flip-flop of that in the main series. So it's kind of cool seeing, again, something different, but also just, showcasing, again, kind of the gods' twistedness in that sense. But with Vandre, I'm just going to call him Von because that's easier. But along with Von, we also get Batlam, however you want to say it. And as the old saying goes, Balaam's just that versatile. And so, that's an inside joke for you, those that have actually read the volume. But getting on to, some other parts of the volume, we also get this really cool, I don't want to say parallel Easter egg to the main series, and I'm not even really going to dive in deep what I mean, but there is an aspect of the Demon Lord in this that is going to be like, oh shit, you're going to know exactly what the twist is in this, but it's going to be like one of those, like, you're waiting to see what the characters think of the reveal, or how that's going to play out, because maybe they're going to underestimate them or something like that. But I was like, oh shit, are they going to get creamed here without them knowing about it? What's gonna happen here? So there is kind of that level. If you haven't read the main series, or even then, I think the main series, you'd have to read the web novel, because I don't think the English translation has been released that has this information that I'm referring to. But there's going to be a really cool element referring to the Demon Lord for those that aren't already exposed to that part of the story from the web novel. So that's really cool. I also really love, there is a moment in the book where Mileti and the rest of the crew, Oscar and I specifically, are having to retreat and meet back up with other allies. And while they're in the middle of their journey back to the allies, we get to jump over to the church side of things and see a little bit more in how, the church is working, what's the different level, what's the hierarchy there, who's in charge, who's powerful, what they're, kind of what they're in charge of, what are their plans, and also seeing more of Barn, right? And I've honestly, it's probably the most intriguing part. I kind of alluded to this in the last video that we talked, but I really dig just the idea of, having the church set up as just this, such a twisted organization, and, having it almost in a sad way where, not all of them are evil by their own accord, but there is some brainwashing there. There is some other elements at play, and just having that character in there that is such a high-ranking member and has so much status within that organization because of how powerful he is, or his abilities that maybe essentially keep him around because they think he can be useful. I really just like that dynamic, and seeing a little bit more about his circumstances and his mentality of it all. It's really cool because we get a little bit of a sneak peek in Volume 2 of what Laos is thinking about, or how he's kind of perceiving his enemy in front of him. But in this one, I think they really do, or I guess I should say the author does a really great job of peeking in there and giving us a little bit more, and maybe even starting to sympathize with him a bit. And I still think that even though Oscar is probably still my favorite Liberator overall, just because I like seeing what he's going to create next, and what the new Liberator added to the group is going to mean for Oscar as well, and what he's going to be able to make for the group. I would say that Laos is one that I'm most looking forward to seeing more of, because he's just his situation, his predicament, just that much more intriguing than some of the others. And I will say, maybe I don't want to pit people against each other, but maybe the saddest background of the rest of them, just because it's like it's out of his control. But anyway, moving on, I do want to see. I guess I mentioned all of the good parts. So let me talk about some of the parts that I'm a little bit more critical about, because I think I'm able to expound a little bit more about some points that, maybe I didn't like as much, or just that I was like, okay. And that is, it does, I think it's the prologue. It's either the prologue or it's at the very beginning of the book, but I in the first chapter, but I'm pretty sure it's in the prologue. But there is a very weird jumping around a bit that I was like, it's fine or whatever, but it was just kind of a weird way to start things off. But the prologue is something I can take or leave. It kind of jumps forward in a bit where Van is already with the group. And I don't know, maybe I should go back and read that now that I've finished the book. But there's just a really weird moment where it's like, they're already together, and then it goes into chapter 1, and it's starting where you would initially think it's supposed to be, right? So, I don't know. That was a little off to me. The other thing was, there's 2 points of the book that I want to talk about, but first let me mention, just as something more broad about the story, Vaughn is one of those that I do like. Some of his personality traits, I like that, he's kind of got this beef with Oscar, and they kind of butt heads, and it's probably because they share more similarities than any of the other Liberators, and because of that, kind of not liking what they see in themselves, perhaps, that they have this arguments, and, they, make fun of each other in a sense. And I like that, and I also like, some of the lines or, of comedy that Vaughn has. And I do think, while his backstory is intriguing in the terms of the relationships that he has, I think the motivation with his mother, the relationship he has with the Demon Lord, and how that kind of plays into things, like all of those elements. But there's just something about Vaughn that I just don't find as intriguing to know about him specifically, or I don't know. It's I guess it's like one of those things. I appreciate a lot of the avenues the author went for, but I didn't really care how it impacted him specifically as a character. You know what I mean? And I think maybe part of that is one of the moments I will talk here in just a minute, but there's also another thing with the test subjects, which I won't say any more than that, but there is a group of people that are seemingly more powerful to the point where they give the Liberators some trouble. And, they do a good job of explaining why they may seem more powerful than them out the gate, and part of that is not corrected, but after you get the exposition of why, then you're like, okay, they're not really as powerful or more powerful than them with that knowledge, or the characters knowing that knowledge. But it's still something that, to me, feels like the author was like, crap, I don't want to bring in these other characters that I already have that can give the Liberators trouble because it's too soon. And then there's not really any other avenue I can think of at the moment, so let's just make these. So, I don't know, not that I'm like, oh, this needs to be changed, or like, oh, I flat out hate it. I didn't hate it, I don't know, it maybe just didn't hit me as well of a threat for them to go up against as some of the others, maybe just because it felt shoehorned in a sense. But that's more of a personal taste. I think, the story that centers around it is still cool, and it still intrigues me, but, overall just not the most interesting group or kind of enemies I've, had in comparison with, some of the other volumes. Now, the two moments I want to talk about real quick is there's a moment that, again, kind of triggers these events into happening with a attack on a group of characters. And I really... It's not that... it's one of those things that maybe it's just that I'm a little bit greedy and I want to see more of the main characters. So like the Liberators, I want to see more of Mileti, Oscar, Nyes, Myru together in the heat of action, seeing them go up against like maybe a surprise attack or something like that. And not so much these side characters, again, it's one of those things that's necessary, and it's purposeful, or it gives purpose to why we spent so much time in the book learning about the organization and the other members, because of this element. But to me, it's like one of those that I'm like, don't get me wrong, there's some stakes here, and I do want to see how the stakes turn out, but I just was like, I want to get back to the main group, and it's something that I don't think would bother everybody, but to me it just didn't land, and maybe even that's why some of the antagonists referring to the test subjects didn't ring my bell for, I don't know, that's just, is that even an expression? I just said that off the cuff. But yeah, maybe that's the reason, just because I wasn't into their reveal and the circumstances surrounding that. But again, like I said, it's still a cool thing. Obviously, it gives the Liberators something to consider later on, maybe in the next volume. But to me, it was just like one of those that this is part of the volume. If I had to critique one, or if I had to point out one that I was just not liking enjoyment-wise as the rest, it would be that one. The other one is it's later on in the volume, and I got to be kind of vague about this because it is kind of like I don't know. I guess it's not too much of a spoiler if I say it, but I'll try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. But there is a moment where Vaughn is kind of broken down, I guess, and he's needing something to bring back his motivation, his fighting spirit, or something along those lines. And there's actually two instances where this happens, where two different characters kind of have to give him the speech, and I don't know, to me, like, it's one of those things, again, like, it's not one I hate, and in certain circumstances, stuff like that is really cool. There's plenty of instances in the Dalmachi volumes where something like that happens, and I'm like, dude, that's so, I'm ready, like, it gets me hyped. But in this instance, it's, I don't know, kind of just, it's like one of those anime tropes that is just like, sometimes you just can't help but roll your eyes at. And maybe it's just because you've seen it 1,000 times. Maybe it's that it's been done so many times that when you don't hit it, like, specifically how it's supposed to, it just doesn't hit you at all, or it's just harder to have that effect. I don't know specifically what caused that, but there is that that anime speech of like, well, I believe in you, and I think I can take on the world, or something like, I don't know. Maybe I'll insert a speech in here that kind of relates it, but like that motivating speech that's supposed to, uplift you and like keep them pressing on or press past their limit and stuff like that. Like, there's one of those in there that happens a couple times, and maybe it's that it happens one times too many, and that's why it's like, it affects both of them, because not only does the second one feel like we've already seen this now in the same book, but also it kind of dampers like, well, if he's already broken in this one, then, but he got motivation from the first one, why does he need the second pick me, So, excuse me, again, it's kind of just one of those things that, for some people might have hit him perfectly. For me, it didn't land it. And I really do hope that that's more of the circumstances of the volume and not Vaughn himself as a character, because I have really liked all of the characters so far, and again, like I mentioned, I like Vaughn's dynamic between some of the other party members, and I really do want to, see where that leads into, some of the other characters interacting with him, because we really see only a few interactions with, a couple characters, but yeah, again, fights are really cool. There is probably one of the bigger stakes in the series so far at the very end, and they set up some really cool things to come for the next volume. We got kind of a tease of the Liberators and the Church going into seemingly unknown territory, at least in this. It's a territory that we know of from the main series, and that gets me excited. But they're all going to be in the same place, and it's a place that has some intrigues to it. I'll just say it's a certain forest, if you remember. So that's really exciting, and I can't wait to see just to what extent. We also get, again, an introduction of a Liberator that we don't get to meet face to face in this book, but at the beginning of the story, it's kind of sets up why he's gone or where he's at, and at the very end we get the mentioning of him again, which is going to be the vice leader of the Liberators, who is Milady's second in command. So that's going to be also another cool thing to see, because he's got to be pretty strong if he's number 2, and he also sounds like a character. I didn't mention it in any of the other ones, but for some reason, I don't know, the author's got this fascination with men in drag, or drag queens, I guess you could say, and they make a return, and this volume's the most prominent. And don't take that as like, oh, the whole book's filled with drag queens. No, it's just like a couple things that he does, but yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm like, man, what is it just like because Arifureta's world's known for drag queens that he put this in here as kind of Easter egg stuff, or is there something about this author that I don't know about? But anyway, guys, that'll conclude our review of Volume 3. Again, I it just occurred to me, I haven't given a solid rating for any of the other volumes. For me, Volume 3, I think it's a gotta have it. I feel pretty comfortable about that. Again, it's got some really cool intrigue and really just kind of meh moments, albeit far and few between. But again, with the action being not the best, I would say, but also still entertaining. It's like just one of those that if I had, because I'm also trying to keep in mind what would I rate this, and also keeping in line what I have rated in my mind the other ones, I would say this is a gotta have it. So still pretty high, but a little bit lower. But again, I think you guys will really enjoy this, and you may even enjoy it more than me. I think people that don't know necessarily the twists that I was alluding to, I think that's something that might be like, oh my gosh, type thing. But yeah, anyway, guys, I'll get out of here. I just probably have to add in some ratings for the other one. So I'm going to go do that real quick. I'll see you guys for the next video, though. There will be more book reviews. I'm hoping that Michael will be back soon so we can do more manga stuff. So stay tuned for that, as well as comic stuff coming out. Go check out the gaming channel. We got plenty of gaming stuff coming out. But anyway, guys, I'll see you next time. And as always, peace, addicts.